Welcome to State of the State. I'm Darlene and I'm in conversation with Dr. Alba. He is an academic instructor with the Rhode Island Department of Corrections and a longtime resident of a little town called Narragansett. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. He's here tonight to talk to us about his political involvement there,
yes.
What's happening there in the town, and he brought a paper trail.
Yes.
Quite the paper trail.
Plenty of evidence. What I'm about to say is the truth, nothing but the truth.
Okay.
And you can verify it by the documentation.
All right, so let's talk about your passion for this little town. When did that start? Where did that come from?
Well, my dad was a longtime advocate for Narragansett, and he used to go to all the town council meetings, and he just instilled in me to fight for what's right, you know, and to do what's best.
Okay. So you grew up in Narragansett?
Since '79. I was there since '79.
Okay.
But I did go there earlier because my dad had a shop there when I was about 5, 6 years old. So.
Okay. So you went to school in Narragansett?
No, I went to Togiat High School in Warwick.
Okay. And then moved to Narragansett in later years?
'79.
In '79, got it, '79. And so from there, what sort of career path did you take? What did you?
Well, I went to school, I became an engineer, and after leaving engineering, I worked a couple of years as an engineer. I was in the Big Brothers program, I liked helping kids out. And I said, you know what, I'm more of a people person. I went back to URI to get my teaching degree, and from there I got my teaching certification in secondary mathematics, because it's not a big leap from engineering to mathematics. And then I ended up getting my master's at Rhode Island College and my doctorate at UConn.
Wow. So. And so you ended up with the Rhode Island Department of Corrections when?
Probably I've been working for the state for 34 years.
Okay.
So.
What's your favorite part of teaching?
Giving back to my students.
Okay.
So.
And apparently you're giving back to the town of Narragansett.
I'm trying to. I mean, we have the Our Town Narragansett Facebook page.
Okay.
We have well over 14,000 members, and it's growing by 100 new members every week. So.
Okay. So you started that page. Was that in response to what's happening here? What are you going to talk about tonight, or just
no?
as a little...
just to keep everyone informed about Narragansett. And we also have the Narragansett Town Council Forum page, which has about 2,200 members, which is amazing because when you go to town council meetings, you only see a handful of people who show up, but there is a strong interest in the town of Narragansett and its politics.
Okay.
And people can vent themselves, vent out.
All right. All right, well, why don't we dive into this paperwork? Where do you want to start?
Okay, so I'm going to start at the very beginning. I have a email sent by Michael Vicola, and this was actually in 2017, and he so states that at the conclusion of the 2017 season, we'll be closing the hotel and preparing it for hibernation and demolition. Michael Vicola is the lawyer, one of the chief lawyers for the Proxy Paolino team.
Okay.
So he's been instrumental.
Okay.
So,
and by hotel, so let's fill our audience in on the hotel, maybe any history you have of the hotel.
Sure. So the hotel was originally, they ended up buying the hotel from the previous, they had a lease agreement with the RIDEM to maintain the hotel. I have a copy of the lease here, but I don't really want to get into that. But they were supposed to maintain the hotel, keep it functionally operational. Now, Proxy Paolino, they have $10 billion in assets. So for them to say, you know, we're going to abandon the hotel because it's functionally obsolete, just has most people's brains spinning around, you know. How can you abandon a hotel, you know, if you're a multi-billion-dollar company? But this is what they told the state. And as a result,
do you know what the face of tourism looked like at that time? So it was 2017.
Yes. So they were saying basically it became functionally obsolete because of its age, and by them not renovating it or updating it. I mean, if you see some of their hotels, they're like Ritz-Carltons. They have on their page $10 billion in real estate investments. So I mean, if someone did this to their properties, I'm sure they would be suing, putting them in possibly criminal investigation, charging them with crime, reckless endangerment. You know, you don't just have a piece of property and let it go. I mean, if this was you or I and we had property and we did this to our property, we would be arrested and charged.
Okay, so let's rewind a bit. So when did they take over the hotel or purchase the hotel?
In 2017.
So they purchased the hotel in 2017.
Well, no, actually, no, it was before then, excuse me. That's when they decided they were no longer
going to close it down.
Right. So the hotel was actually purchased, it said, underlying lease with the state of Rhode Island on or about March 3rd, 2005. So it was an operation from 2005 to 2017.
So it's about 12 years.
Right.
Okay. And they were leasing the land
Right.
from the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management.
Correct.
How and when did the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management purchase this property?
Well, that's a good question. The town of Narragansett, at one time had the opportunity to purchase the 5-acre parcel. I guess they decided not to do it at the time, and so the RIDM took it over. But when the lease was originally generated for Proxiante Paolino, that was part of the package deal that they had to maintain the hotel.
Okay. And the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management, do they own a number of parcels around the state?
Well, they own quite a few of the parcels in Galilee.
Okay.
And I'm sure they have parcels of land throughout the state. They did a lot of work in Rocky Point area too. They made a beautiful pier over there.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Do you know when it was purchased?
When what was purchased?
The parcel.
No, I don't.
Okay.
But I do have a lot to share with you. So if you don't mind,
okay. So I just wanted to sort of build a little foundation, Dr.
Excellent.
Alba.
Thank you. Okay. So in any event, we have over here prior to Proxiante Paolino expressing and saying that we do not want to maintain. We want to have a street level parking for the entire 5 acres. They want to have entire street level parking. Just prior to that, when we had those Zoom meetings, which I'll get into in a second, Champlain was sold to TPG on December 23rd, 2020. Champlain's Marina, which is in Block Island.
Okay.
So they have this beautiful marina which they purchased, and at that time, the previous owners were trying to have it increased in size by twice the size. And a judge came in and says, yes, we're going to allow it to be increased by twice the size. 2 CRMC individuals came in and they said, yeah, they can have it increased to twice the size. But then the town of New Shoreham, Block Island, fought it. They did fight it, and it went all the way to the Supreme Court. So, in fact, the Rhode Island Attorney General, Peter Nerona, stated this: I am pleased with the court's decision to grant our motion to intervene in Champlain's Realty Association versus a CRMC. As an intervening party in my case, my office is seeking to protect Rhode Island's unique coastal environment to ensure that the CRMC follows a fair and transparent and legal process. So let's have now the Attorney General intervene to make sure that the RIDM is following a fair and transparent process, because myself and everyone else, is saying this is not the case. We feel it's a cover-up. We feel basically lack of transparency, and our town is actually outraged about this situation. People are telling me this is like a plutocracy. What is going on here? How could this possibly be?
Okay.
In fact, here is the documentation. Here's the notice, which shows this is a news report, which says the Supreme Court ends battle over Block Island Marina's expansion. Okay. So sometimes you have to fight back. You need litigation.
So it sounds like the townspeople fought back.
And they won.
And they won.
And they won.
And it sounds like our Attorney General
supported that.
Supported that. Okay.
They supported that, right.
I'm with you so far, Dr. Alba.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you. So then we have, it said, so then we had 2 Zoom meetings. So this here, so they purchased the Champlain's Marina, and then in 2021, we had a series of Zoom meetings.
Okay.
So it was the town of Narragansett Town Council. I myself was included in it, which was nice. I was able to speak. And we said, we want to have, because at this time, the lease was about to expire. The current term lease expired July 31st, 2021. So Proxiante Paolino, they felt under the gun, so they put together these proposals that they submitted, but they were pretty much a street-level parking lot. He goes, Mr. Bacola goes, this area is noisy and stinky and smelly, or something to this effect. He goes, this is the best thing, and Jesse Pugh, who was the president at the time, says, what do you mean, we want to have a beautiful mixed-use development. So Mary Kay was on on the call on the Zoom meeting, she goes, well, you know, this is just not going to cut the mustard. You know, we're definitely going to have to have an RFP process. And the RFP is going to be transparent. So what we'll do is we're going to give Procacciante Paolino, we're going to issue an MOA, and we're going to give them a 6-month extension. And we're going to allow everyone to bid and create a viable mixed-use development for the 5-acre parcel.
Okay.
So here is the memorandum agreement, and it says here, DEM hereby grants PRI 10, a 180-day extension from August 1st, 2021, and terminating January 31st, 2022. Okay, and it says they're going to be cooperative, they're going to be open, they're going to be transparent. You know, it's going to be objective, right? So they issued the request for proposals. Here we go, here's the request for proposals. And we actually even contacted the University of Rhode Island. And the University of Rhode Island created a beautiful Galilee, a vision of resilient port. You know, and it was eco-friendly as well. You know, RIDM, eco-friendly, you think they would jump at this, you know? And so we put a lot of time and effort into this here, and then the town of Narragansett adopted a lot of the designs from that.
So this proposal was created for the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management to review.
Right, to review, and also for PRI 10 to review. So right there's a conflict of interest, because PRI 10 created this proposal in conjunction with the RIDEM. So they work together as a team. Okay. And it says in here clearly that if any time PRI 10 doesn't want to continue with this here, then we can just cut, you know, it basically gave them carte blanche. It gave PRI 10 unlimited, you know, total freedom to do whatever they want to do. You know, and when I heard why they rejected the town of Narragansett's proposal, it just made me shake my head. You know, they didn't even come back to the drawing board saying, can we work with the town? You know, you got a lot of great aspects. It's a mixed-use development. It was crafted in conjunction with what URI came up with as a resiliency study. They just denied us outright. And it says the respondents must address the following: employment opportunities generated by the proposed redevelopment, including full-time jobs, contributions that will bring to the commercial fishing industry, town of Narragansett, the state of Rhode Island, and the general public. So they wanted to create a viable mixed-use development, improvements including buildings and other site improvements.
Where would the funding come from to build this?
Well, that's an interesting question.
Okay.
The town of Narragansett put forth their ideas of funding, and Procacciante Paolino, they also put their ideas of funding as well, which, you know, who knows where they would get their funding from as well, because PRI 10, Procacciante Paolino, it's amazing. What they'll do is they will purposely take out a loan, a mortgage, which they did on the Lighthouse Inn. Now, they could have easily purchased that Lighthouse Inn outright, but what they do is they're sly, they're very sly. What they'll do is they will end up taking out a mortgage to have a tripart agreement. The tripart agreement is when the RIDM has to sign off and say, okay, we're going to work with this mortgagee, but we're not going to terminate the lease, because most mortgagees will not, people who are holding the mortgage, they are not going to sign off on a mortgage unless they could be a guarantee that this here lease is going to be extended over and over and over again. So this is why they have a tripart agreement. In fact, when
can I just pause you for so the funding from the town of Narragansett, where's that funding coming from? You said
well, the funding for the town of Narragansett was, you know, it's an interesting question. They were going to be getting it through maybe possibly bonds and whatnot, or tax infrastructure, you know. Okay. But the town of Narragansett, we manage a lot of properties. Okay. We manage Kennebunkport. We manage the towers. We manage the Narragansett Town Beach. So we're not neophytes. We have the skills. If they came back to us, because they did question our funding, but if they came back to the town of Narragansett saying, you know, we need more credibility, we need to have some bonds raised. Well, you know what? We could have easily put that on the voting for us to vote upon, and we would have voted for it. Okay. You know, and we could have also gotten funding from URI. You know, and with respect to the museum, a maritime museum was proposed. So there's creative ways of getting funding funding. You know, the Department of Commerce, you know, let's face it, look at how we're getting funding for the Washington Bridge situation. I mean, if you want to get funding out there, it's available. I would have gladly helped them do that myself.
Okay.
So funding, you know, that was an excuse that the RIDM gave, so to speak.
Okay.
Okay. And the town of Narragansett came up with their own redevelopment proposal, which was outstanding. And then also, ISL Aqua did as well. Now, it's interesting because Proximity Paolino, they came up with their proposal, and they said, well, phase 1 will be a parking lot primarily, but phase 2 would be a boutique hotel. But we want a 99-year lease, okay? 99-year lease. But, you know, but the point is, right now, they're getting a 20-year lease for what? For street-level parking, which is in violation of the town of Narragansett zoning, which they should not. The RIDM is basically granting a lease which is in violation of the town of Narragansett zoning. That's zones GB, Galilee business. For the Galilee business area, you have to have a special use permit, and the town of Narragansett never gave them that permit. Now you might say,
so my question is, how then are they operating a parking lot?
Well, excellent question, excellent question.
Okay.
See, it was all part of the kit and caboodle, so to speak. So basically, before they were operating the parking lot in conjunction with operating the hotel. So the town of Narragansett was willing to give them that use of that parking lot with the understanding they're going to be operating that the hotel, keeping it functioning, getting tax dollars in, getting people in there. So, but with the hotel down, we never gave them the authority to continue that.
How much has the town of Narragansett lost, do you figure, since this hotel closed down?
Oh, I would say, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Revenue.
Hundreds of thousands
for the town of Narragansett.
Yes, because we're losing income from taxes, the revenue coming in. I mean, you just can't make this up. Tourism. And you know, when I went to the State Properties Committee, Mary Kay said she was very transparent. Well, here's a local article that says, local officials blindsided by the Lighthouse Inn decision. You know, so our town council president, she sat down with the RIDM director, and she's talking to him, and then all of a sudden, we find out that the RIDM is offering a 19-year parking lot lease to Proximity Paolino. So the town was all upset, everyone's all upset. So then RIDM, I'm doing an APRA request. I want to see who approved this, who authorized this here. They said nobody did. It's not going on. It's not going to happen. Now all of a sudden, fast forward to this year, we have the State Properties Committee. I got told we're going to have an upcoming meeting. I go there. I said, you got to be kidding me. I said, how can we allow Proximity and Paolino? Why should we grant them a 20-year parking lot lease after the harm they caused Galilee? They broke the law. They breached their original lease. In fact, we have over here documentation. We have the documentation of a notice of unsafe conditions. This is by the building inspector saying they created a health, safety, environmental hazard. Now, Mr. Landry, who was representing the RIDM, had the state, their building inspector. And their building inspector also said, Mr. Cambio, this building is unsafe. It's a fire hazard. It's detrimental. It's got to come down.
And this is as recent as when?
This here was as recent as like last year.
Okay, so
here we are, fast forward, April 28, 2023. It even hasn't been a year.
Okay.
And Landry is saying that, you know what? We have to terminate this lease. We have to terminate this lease. So if we're terminating this lease, then why is and they got grounds. They got grounds. The building inspector says they created an unsafe condition. And yet, so how can the Attorney General, representative, Mr. Schultz, how can Mr. Schultz condone? He says, well, we can't get involved with litigation. We can't get involved, because if we get involved with litigation, it's going to be costly. It's going to be costly. So you're telling me if someone has enough money to make something go into litigation, you could literally break the law, you could create a health, safety, environmental hazard? We had dead seagulls dying in there. I called the RIDM, I said, I see live seagulls in there, they're trapped in there. Get them out. Oh, I said, can't you send someone over there? We're going to call the owners. We're going to call the owners. This is the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management. You cannot make this up. They're supposed to be protecting the environment, protecting wildlife. And yet, you know, it's just like they just continue to make and fabricate one falsehood after another. And it's all documented. This is all documented. So it's like, I am not making this up. I mean, it just really makes you shake your head in disbelief, you know? So even the Attorney General says, you know, he was actually quoted. He was quoted in the paper, and he said to the effect that he said, what's wrong, you know, like, what's wrong with this picture? He said, the taxpayers get a crappy hotel, and Procacciante Paolino get a cash bonanza parking lot. And yet, Greg Schultz says, we cannot litigate. He goes, we cannot litigate. We cannot litigate because it's going to be costly. How can you condone actions by someone who breaks the law and say we're not going to fight them because they have so much money that it's going to involve litigation, when we can see right over here in a big win for the town, Supreme Court decision stops the controversial Browning Pond project. Exeter and Richmond, they fought the RIDEM because they were trying to build a building on this beautiful pond, which was in violation of their zoning, which could cause harm, and they had to go to the Supreme Court to win the case. And also, when Champlain Marina was expanding to twice its size, the RIDM did not say it's going to cause great harm to the Great Salt Pond. They kept quiet. So, I mean, why are they married to Procacciante Paolino? It just has you shake your head spinning.
We have about 8 or so minutes left. So where should we go from here? You know, I'm wondering what the town might do, right, what residents of the state might do.
Well, I hope, you know, for one thing, there's it's called a home rule. I don't know if you're familiar with the home rule structure. Are you familiar with that at all?
No, tell us, please.
Well, the home rule structure says that there's this called the state supremacy law. And the state supremacy law says that a state agency can't take over a town's zoning or building if it's in the overall interest. It's like eminent domain. They're building an airport in Warwick, okay, and there are all these properties here. And they could show justification that it's in the best interest of the city and town. But home rule says that if the town can argue, as was done in the Supreme Court Browning Pond decision.
Yeah, and also Block Island, correct?
And also Block Island, exactly, that, in fact, you can fight it.
Okay.
That means you can show that by them putting a street-level parking on 2 of those 3 lots, it is not in the best interest of the city or the town. It's going to hurt the city and the town and the state. In fact, in the RFP, it even stated that we need to have proposals which are going to help the city and the town. We're going to help the city and the town. So if that's the case, how can giving two of the 3 lots to a private developer, it's taking all of this land. Now, the town of Narragansett, in URI, they said, let's make a consolidated parking garage, where it could also serve an emergency shelter in case there's ever flooding in that area, where cars can go up there and stay as a safe haven. They were going to have underground conduits, so if there's ever flooding, it could flow off into the ocean to mitigate the flooding. So they came up with this beautiful design. So why are they giving 2 of these three lots to Procacciante Paolino? And it's also in violation of the town's zoning because they're not issued.
Well, do you have the answer?
Well, yeah, I do.
Tell us. Unfortunately,
we have to go to court. We have to litigate. In fact, at the Zoom meeting, Carol Hagan-McEntee, who's a representative, she says sometimes you have to litigate, and you absolutely do. I mean, if they didn't litigate in Block Island, if they didn't litigate in Richmond, the Exeter area for the Browning Pond project, then they would have lost. I mean, you have to fight back. In the latest movie, Cabrina, right? Mother Cabrina, she says you have to fight back. You got to fight David, right? David versus Goliath.
So how do the town residents do that?
Well, that's a good question. You know, I'm hoping that the town council, I hope they have backbone. Because we really, you know, unless we're going to be getting our own lawyer, which Greg Schultz says, well, maybe you guys can hire your own lawyer. But the thing is, why did Greg Schultz, why did he not stand up and say, you know what, we can't succumb to a a multi-billion-dollar company. We have to fight this. Why did he made it sound like, I don't care. If someone broke the law, if they were nefarious, as was the building inspectors, both the Narragansett building inspector and the state building inspector clearly showed, they would have never terminated their lease. The RIDM terminated their lease, so they had grounds to see they were reckless.
Yep.
So why would you or anyone
Yep.
give someone a 20-year street-level parking lot, no bid, after the harm they did, even though their owners?
Yeah, so the town resident should go to their town council members. Is that what you're saying?
Right, well, we have.
Okay.
I've actually spoke up. I've
Okay.
had many, many people speak up, and we pleaded with them. You have to fight for justice. You have to fight for what is right.
Okay.
Now, if they're going to, that's another story, you know.
Yeah, do you want to share?
Yeah, so
Okay.
in any event, this is a story this is about Tom Sajak. He was a multi-billionaire himself, but he was a philanthropist. He gave back, and he gave back to many, many charities. Okay, the St. Jude Children's Hospital, Danny Thomas, his dad worked with Danny Thomas and gave much money to the St. Jude. And he actually had yachts, he had boats. He was probably as wealthy as Procacciante and Paolino, but he was near death. He had a near-death experience. He goes, how am I going to be remembered in life? So Mr. James Procacciante and Mr. Joe Paolino, we know you have billions. We're asking you, please, please do the right thing. You know, please give back. Please, if you want parking in that area, make a street-level parking lot. I mean, make a consolidated parking garage. Make a consolidated parking garage. Work with the town. Make a beautiful multi-use development. We do not want street-level parking there. The Attorney General, I'm begging you and pleading you, please open this case up again. Please open it. All eyes are on the governor's office too. Governor McKee, please, I plead, reopen this case. We do not want to be married to a 20-year street-level parking lot, which is going to be taking millions of dollars away from the taxpayers of Rhode Island to support multi-billionaires. We don't need that. We don't need that in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
We need to fight for what's right.
Narragansett has changed quite a bit, I'm
has.
sure.
It has.
You grew up there, oh, since 79.
79.
So what are some of the things that you've seen as far as improvements? Why don't we end on that?
Well, I love Narragansett Beach. Narragansett Beach is beautiful. It's God's country over there. I mean, taking a walk along Ocean Road, you know, it's just, you know, it's always been God's country, though. So I know they are proposed changes. They're thinking about putting signage up there and whatnot. And to me, you know, it's been beautiful as it is for many, many years since its inception. So you shouldn't mess with perception.
Okay.
You know, you should be thankful. And I want to thank God for letting me advocate. You know, and I just hope and pray that people who watch this video will take a stand against Procacciante and Paolino, will take a stand against the RIDM, that the RIDM will reflect on what I had to say. I'm not making this up. I have the documentation. I have the litigation. It's all here. I'll gladly testify under oath. Sadly, I heard repeated lies by the RIDM and, you know, Procacciante, Paolino. You know, when you hear people who are in service and entrusted in their fiduciary responsibilities, but fail in their fiduciary responsibilities, that's frightening. That's frightening. I mean, we work very hard to make Narragansett beautiful, and when you see a state agency usurping the powers from the town of Narragansett for individuals who caused harm, it just makes people shake their head in disbelief.
Yeah.
People told me when I started, it's like fighting David versus Goliath. They said, Procacciante and Paolino, they own the Capitol. You know, good luck trying to beat them. You know, in fact, I met one of the relatives of the owner of Procacciante. He goes, we're going to get that parking lot no matter what, Dr. Alba. Good luck trying to fight us.
Oh.
I mean,
That must have been so painful.
it was painful, but you know what? I'm a fighter, and I believe in God, and I hope and pray through the Holy Spirit that He intervenes to save our gem of a village of Galilee. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm Darlene DeRezzo. Thank you for watching. Please find us on social media. We have a new Instagram account. That's State of the State RI.